Then the Bible says, a stranger comes and eats of it. And God says this is an evil disease. It's an evil disease. And I don't know a continent that suffers from that disease like Africa. How many of you understand what I'm saying? I don't know a continent that is suffering from that disease like Africa. Many Africans think they are poor. They're not really poor. A stranger has devoured her strength as a continent. Strangers have devoured their inheritance. They think they are poor. They are not poor. No, they're strangers coming, taking this inheritance. Those of you who read economic statistics know this, and I'm going to help for those of you who probably don't take time to read. How many of you know the GDP of Africa? Anybody? 2.7 trillion. The whole of Africa, north, east, west, south. 2.7 trillion. 2.7 trillion. North, east, west, south. Including South Africa, which is believed to be a first world, quote and unquote. Are you following what I'm saying? Who knows the GDP of Japan? 5.4 trillion. The nation of Japan. 5.4 trillion. Who knows the GDP of Germany? 4.4 trillion. What resources are underground in Germany? Tell me what resources you know are mined in Germany. Tell me which resources you know are mined in Japan. Take, for instance, a nation like Uganda, or all the coffee-producing nations in the world. It is said that the total value, global value of coffee across the world is 460 billion. That's the global value of coffee. $460 billion. If you get all the coffee-producing nations in the world, Ethiopia, Uganda, Brazil, mention those of you who know them. Ethiopia, anybody? Any else? Any other? Colombia, any other? Does Ghana produce coffee? Malaysia? Indonesia? If you get all the coffee-producing nations and put them together, of the 460 billion, they only receive 25 billion. Of the 460 billion of that share, they receive only 25 billion. If you come to Africa, Ethiopia and Uganda are among the leading producers of coffee in the world. Africa, the whole of Africa, we receive only 2.5 billion. 2.5 billion of the 460. Uganda receives $800 million of the 460. Germany receives 40 billion. Did you get it? Germany receives 40 billion. Uganda receives 800 million. 40 billion. The whole of Africa, all the coffee producing nations in the world receive 25 billion, which is about 7%, 6%. All the coffee producing. Germany receives 40 billion. It's close to double the profit of all the coffee producing nations in the world. If you ask our economists, they say value addition. Value addition. That on the market, a kilo of coffee costs about $2.5, but once it's processed to the end product, you could make about $40 per kilo. Okay, we know it. Why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we doing it? This is just coffee alone. What about South Africa? And your gold? And your platinum? Your diamonds? How much of that stays? What of Congo? 3/4 of the world's cobalt are produced from one country, the DRC. 3/4 of the world's cobalt. That which you use to make your batteries. The gold in Congo. What of the oil in Nigeria? What of the diamonds in Sierra Leone and Ivory Coast? Is it Ivory Coast? What of the gold in Ghana? What of the gold in Zimbabwe? What of the diamonds in Botswana? Are you following what I'm saying? A stranger eateth. A stranger eateth. Value addition. Let us put companies to be able to translate these things and make them at home so we can add value to them. You see? We know that science. We know that that's the solution. But guess what? We don't have the power. Because it's one thing to be able to know what to do. It's another to have the power to do.